Welcome to the Daily Word Verse by Verse. Grab your Bibles and follow along as we study the book of Colossians. Keep in mind, I am using the Holman Christian Standard Bible, so if you're using a different translation, the read is different, but the message is the same. Also, keep in mind that these Daily Word Verse by Verse studies are uploaded to my YouTube channel, BP, The Bible Perspective. That's BP, The Bible Perspective. So like and share these videos, excuse me, and subscribe to BP, The Bible Perspective. Okay, we're in chapter 1, Colossians chapter 1, and I'm going to pick it up at verse 16. Now, remember in the previous video, he has given us salvation receipts. So having thoroughly explained why we no longer are subject to the commandments, the human effort to try to get saved, which you ought to be, thankful, because it was Jesus the one who erased the debt, the sin debt against us. That it was Jesus who wiped the debt clean. So, now in verse 16 he says, therefore, now this is, again, therefore based upon what Jesus has done for us. Therefore, that he wiped away our sin debt, that he cleared it, that he made us alive in him, with him, before God. So now he says, therefore, don't let anyone judge you in regard to food and drink, and in the matter of festivals, or a new moon, or Sabbath days. So now he comes back to this thought, and actually in this set of scriptures here, he's going to converge Judaism, asceticism, philosophy, all of these thoughts and religious practice, which all has their source in the world. So again, so the first thing is that when he says, don't let anyone judge you with regard to the matter of food, drink, festivals, new moon, Sabbath days. So that's the Old Testament law. So we look at the commandments of the law. And by the way, did you know that the law had 60 plus commandments, all which telling you what to do in an attempt to how you can be righteous, but you can never be. So, he says, verse 17, these are a shadow of what is to come. The substance is the Messiah. So all of these things that the law talked about, and the symbolism, in other words, the reason why. In fact, even we used the word baptism in one of the previous videos here. In fact, we can kind of go back. It says that having been, verse 12, having been buried with him in baptism. Now, the Old Testament word refers to washings. But there were numerous, if you go back and read the Old Testament, and especially Leviticus, you can read Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers primarily, that really, especially with Leviticus. Leviticus pretty much is the handbook of the priest, and their instructional manual in terms of how to administer sacrifices. And it's always the way you had to do it. There was a very specific way that they had to do it. And one of those ways was washings of the dead meat and things like that. The way you had to cut it up and all that kind of stuff. The way you had to burn it. Now, the point is that the particular way of that was it was a shadow of what was to come. It gave an image. It gave a picture. But what he says here is Christ is the substance of it. We have the fulfillment in the person of Jesus. Okay? We have the reality in Jesus. Of all of the Old Testament commandments, then the reality of it, the summation, the fulfillment, the embodiment is in Jesus. And so Paul, in verse 14, of course, said that he erased the certificate of death with its obligations and was which was against us and opposed to us, and has taken it out of the way by nailing it to the cross. So all of that which you see in the Old Testament commandments was only a shadow and an image. Jesus is the substance. He actually did it for us. Now verse 18 says, let no one disqualify you, insisting on ascetic practices and worshiping of angels, claiming access to visionary realms and inflated without cause by an unspiritual mind. Now, the term ascetic or asceticism, and we see this even spilling over into Christianity, believe it or not, in the monasteries, the monasteric, I don't know why I can't pronounce my words today. The monastery age, which were full of ascetic practices. Now, the word ascetic had itself meaning to self-denial. And these religious practices. They are the so-called spiritual practices that usually involve you denying yourself, punishing the body. And in this early age, one of the things that what happened, even the wealthy would come to Christ and they would sell all their goods. And oftentimes they would go live in a cave. They would live poor. They would not groom. They wouldn't bathe or groom, and in their minds, the more they afflicted their bodies, okay, the more pious they were. Now you see that in some respects today, how often you fast, right? How long you fast. Does that give you certain rights, bragging rights? Okay, I fast. Every so often I would run into a person who claims that they fast 40 days. And the reason why they do that is because they believe that if they fast for 40 days, they're going to come out with power like Elijah, like Jesus, like Moses. Okay? Now, the less extreme, of course, is people fast more frequently. And all of that, of course, is it is to what they call self-denial. And the reason why they do it, and this is important, the reason why they do it is because the more self-denial means more piety. Now, verse 19 has an answer to that. It says, he doesn't hold to the head, meaning Jesus, from whom the whole body, nourished and held together by its ligaments and tendons, develops with growth from God. Now, the biggest thing about any type of self-denial that you have, for spiritual purposes, if you think that it's going to cause spiritual growth, and even if you think it's going to produce a piety, a holiness in you, you miss the point, because you're not beholding the head. Now, what causes true growth? What causes true holiness? Beholding the head. Why? Because when I behold it, but the head, this is what I behold. And you who were dead in trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he, the head, has made you alive with him, and forgave all our trespasses. He erased the certificate of death with his obligation that was against us and opposed to us, and has taken it out of the way by nailing it to the cross. He disarmed authorities, rulers and authorities, disgraced in public, and disgraced him publicly. And then it says, he triumphed over them by it. So that's what I'm beholding. And that's what causes true growth. That's what causes true piety. And also it causes holiness, because that's what I see. That's what I rely on. That's what my faith is in. But notice he said, don't let anyone despise you. And it was always amazing. Now you think about this. I mean, you can go to the far extremes of how cults are formed, how they grow. Look at Jim Jones. Denial, self-denial. There's always man's position. I'm going to get into that in the next video, but you can almost come and tell that these marks, when it's man, when they come from man, because they have you denying yourself of something. But here's the problem. You're denying yourself of something without beholding the head. In other words, your pursuit of holiness is just that, your pursuit of holiness, that you're never reaching Jesus. Okay, I'm going to pick it up at verse 20 in the next video, so I'll see you then.